This video, I want to talk about section views. A section view is a view that we create that can show details about the internal features of a part. A lot of times you'll have parts that have a lot of hidden lines that are showing up, and it's hard to see exactly what's happening inside the part. There's not a good place to dimension them, and there's a lot of hidden lines that are just very confusing. So what we're going to be able to do with a section view is look at inside a part basically and see what's going on there. You're going to use a section view when you have this kind of a situation. So if you look at this view here, see all these hidden lines, it's very difficult to tell what is even happening with the geometry of that part. And obviously then we don't have any place to put our dimensions. So what we'll do is we call this a cutting plane line. In this case, we're going to cut right through the center line and essentially visualize what you see when you open the part up and look inside of it. So here's what that section view will look like, and we'll label it alphabetically. We'll start with AA, and so you'll see this is labeled section AA. Typically we don't label our views like we don't label our front, top, right side view, but we'll label our section view. So now I can see inside the part, and that cross-hatching will represent where there's actually material. The empty space represents where there's voids in the part. We'll use this cutting plane, and it's up to you as a designer to decide where you want this cutting plane to go. It depends on what you see, what you want to see. Sometimes you just cut right through the middle of the part, or you can cut out little pieces. In this case, this cutting plane line goes through the middle of that slot, then it zigzags up and it goes through that hole. So now I would essentially cut this part open and look inside of it, and the arrowheads show you which way you're going to look inside the part. They're labeled at the endpoints. It could either be labeled at the arrowheads or on the corners. Now these are mistakenly labeled. They have a little extra like apostrophe or something that's not supposed to be there. So here I would say my section AA would be cutting through here and looking in the part. Section BB would cutting here and looking into the part. This actual section lines or the cross hatches, typically in mechanical drawings we just use a standard like 45-degree line with a kind of equal amount of spacing between them that's reasonable for the size of the part. This is an assembly, so I have a part here and a part here, and this is a shaft. So you'll notice it uses two different kinds of cross hatches to help you see that there's a couple of different materials there. A full section would be you cut the part into two pieces. It doesn't have to be two equal pieces, but here I'm going to cut it apart here and look inside that way. Here I would cut it there and look inside that way. That's called a full section. And here's some examples. So here that would be my plane. I'm going to take this part, I'm going to cut it through there, open it up and look inside. So now you can actually see the material inside there. When you're drawing it, then those lines that, in this case, a view going into the part this way would show a bunch of hidden lines. And now I'm going to have a view here that shows me exactly what's going on inside there. So that would be my standard view. So a lot of hidden lines. One challenge obviously is nowhere to put dimensions. Here with my section view, now I can actually see the material. Here's my cutting plane line, and I would put those cross hatches on to represent where there's physically material, and I can easily dimension to those lines now. So you want to show all the visible edges, but don't show hidden lines when you're doing section views. The objective here is to eliminate section views. Section view is always going to be bounded by a visible outline. The outline of the part is still going to exist, and no lines in the hatched area. Wherever there's cross hatching, there should be no other lines, no center lines, hidden lines, etc. in the cross hatched area. And just use standard section lines. Again, nothing exotic, just 45-degree angle lines. So here's a part that we're going to do a full section. So the cutting plane is right there. And let's look at some different possibilities. Now, this one they're showing the crosshatch, but the problem is these are disconnected, right? Those lines, excuse me, those lines should still be there. The edges of this part haven't gone away, right? It looks like there's a bunch of separate pieces floating around. And this one, the problem is they've left these hidden lines in there. You don't show hidden lines on the section view. We're trying to get away from that. This one problem, all these lines are shown Those hidden lines, those should be object lines now. This one's hard to see, but it's got lines that are going this way and lines that are going that way. And that would indicate two different materials. And this one is correct. That's the correct section view, with that being the cutting plane line.